Anybody else? So we don't know yet, but, can I just see a show of hands of what would be better for you all, if it would be the first night, the Friday, the 19th, or the second night?
All right, those of you
Saturday,
who
the
say the
20th.
first night, Friday night would be better, raise your hand.
Either way.
Really?
Really, that's good.
That's a lot.
And what about those that say the Saturday would be better? Okay, if you've already voted,
It don't matter.
So Mary and Pat. Okay, so then let's just have it on that Friday, okay? If everybody's okay with that Friday, we'll have it Friday evening here. Oh,
We will.
Friday, and then we'll find out where.
Yeah, we gotta find out where. We don't have our own place, so we gotta find out if it's okay to have it here. First of all, so we'll let you know. I'll send an email to you. If I don't have your email address, Pat, if I don't have your email address, you gotta give me your email address, and because I send out meetings every week.
So we don't find a place for Friday, and then we don't have to do it
On Saturday.
Yeah.
Possibly.
On Saturday, kind of like on Saturday night, kind of like
Unleavened bread.
Okay? So then there's that.
I mean, $5 on Saturday night.
Yes.
That's what she said.
Saturday night, if we cannot find.
That's what she said.
Hey,
Nope, got it.
it was fine where it was.
That was fine. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh,
Slow down.
so then there's another thing.
Breaks.
Also, the menu, okay? There's very specific things pertaining to Passover. So, we're gonna have to get together, not this week, but maybe next week, we can start planning out for sure, what everybody needs to bring. And we do need everybody to bring. And like I said, right now, it's just the congregation. We have not talked about opening it up to inviting anybody. Okay? Yes.
You know where I live? Across the street is a big, what's it called? Was
Clubhouse.
there, what's it
The
called?
what?
A clubhouse?
A clubhouse?
You
Yes,
know.
it's
You have access to
real
it?
elegant, real big, it has a
Sounds
kitchen,
nice.
I got it for her, they did some business there.
That sounds nice.
They load it to the tenants for free.
Are you a
Okay,
tenant?
Let me ask first, it's not a.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that.
Do that
Sounds
find
nice.
out for maybe the Friday.
It's on
evening or the-
Trevino.
Yeah. It's
I'm
very
not sure.
large, she knows it there.
Yeah, ask for the Saturday. Ask for the Saturday night
Okay.
on that.
Test.
Let's see.
We'll see what's available.
Test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Test.
You wanna change
it to Saturday?
Test. Those little tiny bits coming out, tiny bit. Let's open the spigot a little bit. Better. Okay, one more announcement. On Sunday night, tomorrow night, is this multimedia show, Hatikva. I talked to some of you about it, yeah, baby. And I got tickets for all those that I spoke to. So after the service, I'll pass you out your ticket. I'll give you your ticket. Turn it down just a hair. I have it. I will pass out your tickets right after the service. Don't worry. Those of you who don't know about it, it's a multimedia, music, film,
Yes.
narration, acting extravaganza about, it's called Hatikva, which is the national anthem of Israel. So it's about why they chose that song, how that song was written, how they applied it, why it became the national anthem of Israel. So it's all about tied in with the birth of the nation of Israel.
Man,
It's been all over the world, highly touted. That means like it's a big deal all over the world.
man.
So if you want to go, it's Sunday night at 5 o'clock at the Fox Fine Arts Recital Hall. And it's $5 a piece. However, I think that it's going to be full, and I don't know that you'll be able to get tickets at the door. You can still get tickets now. All right.
Michael,
Yes, sir.
go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Oh, are we all gonna meet in one place? We go-
Yeah, we'll talk about that after.
Okay.
All right. The name of this Torah portion is very confusing. I'm hopefully gonna help establish for you, once and for all, you being able to leave the bondage of the law and enter the freedom of the law.
Man.
Some of you are still, those fibers are still intertwined, and it's hard to separate in your head between dot law and tavniot, the pictures in the law. It came up when we prayed on Wednesday. We had a really good prayer meeting on Wednesday, by the way. And afterwards, we were talking about kosher. And just like that, everybody slipped into law and left the pictures immediately.
Wow.
And everybody started tapping me because I was being relentless, because I am Mike the Relentless. And it is so hard to stay focused on the pictures. It's just hard, even for people who've been doing it and thinking like this for years. It's hard. So we're gonna work on that today. And it does take work. You gotta work at this to stay focused and stay centered and keep your mind on the pictures. It's tough. So we're gonna take the most basic thing of all, food. We're gonna talk, because that's the Torah portion this week. Now the name of the Torah portion is command. Except it's not command.
Suggestions?
That's how it's translated in the Bible. Commandments, tzvaot, mitzvot. Sabah, I command you, Moses. That's how it's translated. It is not command.
That's right.
It is the word tzav, which literally means to set up or establish. That's all it means. That's the name of the Torah portion, set up or establish. But if you read 98% of commentaries, they all translate it as command. And I'm talking about Messianic Jews. I'm talking about Christians. I'm talking about Orthodox Jews, conservative Jews, Reformed Jews, every Christian. Everybody translates it command. It is not command. And it's very difficult to not think of God as saying, I want you to do this. Now do it. And you go, yes, sir. Oh, yes, I love you so much, sir. So I shall do thy will, O Lord, and I shall obey thee. Even though the word obey never appears in the Bible, never, unless it's talking about a Greek or Persian king.
That's right.
And the word command never appears in the Bible unless it's talking about a Persian or Babylonian king. Period. Sorry, an Egyptian. Period. I know that's hard to get your head wrapped around. Hopefully we can work through some of this stuff and get some more today. So, this is called Go Fish. Go Fish. Because we're going to talk about the fish. But before we talk about the fish, we're going to talk about other things in the, quote, kashrut, or kosher laws. Say kashrut.
Kashrut.
That is what Judaism, the traditions, and in Greek, by the way, Judaism is paradosis, which is translated the traditions, but it is Judaism. It says in Psalm 74, Noda bihuda Elohim. God is known in Judah, in Yehudah, in Judah. That's Judaism. God is known in Judah. And he gave the, what they call paradosis in Greek, the traditions. God gave that. That's Judaism. Yehudaism. So, within Yehudaism, the paradosis, the traditions, is, quote, kashrut, the kosher laws. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 11. By the way, if you don't have a Bible, you're going to get lost. Because I've only got so much up on the screen. So, do what you can to get a Bible. These you may eat, whatever is in the water, all that have fins and scales, whatever is in the seas and in the rivers that does not have fins and scales, of all the living creatures that are in the water, they are an abomination. Now the word is disgusting to you. And they shall be disgusting, an abomination to you. You may not eat of their flesh, and their carcasses you will hold as disgusting, an abomination.
Whatever is in the water does not have fins and scales is disgusting and abomination to you. 4 times. Now this is what we're going to eventually focus on. Is that with the with the things in the ocean, if it doesn't have fins and scales, it is supposed to be what? Disgusting to you. Now that sounds like a command, like God is commanding you, be thou disgusted, right? If you take the Bible as commands, still, if you still have a hard time thinking of the Bible as nothing but pictures, and all of us do, then it's hard not to think of that as, I command thee to be disgusted. So that's what we're going to try to work on. All right. Now, there's 6 different categories that are in the kosher laws, in kashrut, in Leviticus chapter 11. The first one is 4 exceptions to the rule of behemot. Behemot means just beasts, like animals, beasts. Dogs, bears, lions, cats, I don't know, whatever. Anything that's like a beast, an animal. Sheep, goats, gazelle. But there's 4 exceptions to these. And that's what it starts out with. These are the creatures which you may eat from all the animals that are on the earth. Whatever has a hoof, a split hoof, thus making completely split, is what it says in Hebrew. That means like from top to bottom. The split has to go from top to bottom. And choose cud among the animals that you may eat. That you may eat. Nevertheless, you are not to eat the camel, for though it chews the cud, it does not divide the hoof. It is, what does it say? Wrong. You could either look at the Bible or you can look up here. Either one, take your choice. You can't see. You can't see close or far. You're in deep trouble. So, is the animal unclean? No. This is an invitation. Now, what it says in Hebrew, we're going to look at it later. I'm going to show you the Hebrew for it. The word for to you, plural, is lachem. And it says that every single time in this chapter, but nobody sees it. And we didn't see it either. I didn't see this for 25 years. I didn't see lachem in Hebrew, to you, for 25 years. So for 25 years, I was like, well, God, once he says that camel is unclean. But it doesn't say that. It says it's unclean to you. Huge difference. If I tell you that house is wicked, it's got bad things in it, that's totally different from, hey, I want you to consider that house disgusting. Totally different. It's an invitation for you to act, feel, think a certain way. And that's what this is. It's an invitation. Likewise, the shafan. Now, shafan is a coney. You know, like Coney Island?
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of these running around in Ein Gedi in Israel. We saw them when we were in Israel. We went up to Ein Gedi. Remember that pool? People were, swimming in the pool. This was in September or October. No, that's when I went. That's when I went, in September. Yes, we went in December, but I went in September. And there's these little things about this big, kind of like a mixture of a rabbit and a ground squirrel and a raccoon. And if you mix those 3 together, about that big, there's these little things running all over the place. That's a shafan or a coney. These used to populate New York. That's why there's a Coney Island in New Jersey, New York, because there was lots of them. There probably still are, I don't know. But that's a coney or shafan. Why is it unclean to us? Because even though it chews cud, it doesn't have a split hoof. So it's got one, but it doesn't have the other. Therefore, it is what? Unclean to, let's say us. Let's say that. Unclean to us. No, let's not say that. Say unclean to you. Because that's what it says in Hebrew. To you, plural. Unclean to you. I'm going to show you the Hebrew later. And then he says in verse 6, the rabbit also, for even though it chews cud, it doesn't divide the hoof. So it is what? Unclean to you. The pig. This is the one that every Jew centers on, even though it's only 1 out of 4. Why does everybody make such a big deal out of the pig? I'll tell you why. Because Christians love the piggy. They love the piggy. Every single special meal in Christianity is accompanied by the pig. And by the way, this is not arbitrary, this was planned. They wrote about it in all these documentation that they found from Catholic, actually before it was Catholic, from, quote, Christian, but not Christian, Byzantine, Roman Empire, quote, Christian writings, and then onward into the 300s, 400s, 500s that said you must have pig at this meal and this meal and this festival and this special time.
Right.
This was done rationally by forethought to remove food, which we'll talk about later, to remove food and replace it with pig, which is not called food. It's called what?
Disgusting.
Nope. What's it called? What, what's it called here? Unclean to you. It is not trafe. It is not unclean. It's not disgusting. It's unclean to you. And that's all he says about it. You with me so far?
Yes.
It is as unclean to you as a camel or a coney. Whatever that means.
But they're so cute.
Hey, by the way, a rabbit, which is so cute and cuddly. Do you know what a rabbit is in Hebrew? Arnevet. You know what that means? Enemy.
What is it in Hebrew?
Arnevet.
Arnevet?
Arnevet. Which means literally an enemy.
Boy, they.
Cute little fuzzy thing. Isn't that weird? Okay. And then he says, the pig, even though it divides the hoof, thus making a split hoof, it does not chew cud, therefore it is unclean to you. Don't eat their flesh or touch their carcasses. They are unclean to you. And that's all it says. Now, about the water creatures, the one that we're going to talk about. These you may eat, whatever's in the water, all that have fins and scales, whatever's in the seas and the rivers that does not have fins and scales. Of all the living creatures that are in the water, they are, it doesn't say unclean to you. What does it say?
Abomination.
Disgusting, abomination to you. Are they an abomination?
No.
No, they're an abomination. You're invited for them to be an abomination to you. That's number one. And they shall be an abomination to you. Number two, you may not eat of their flesh, and their carcasses you shall hold as. Number three, an abomination. Hold it as an abomination, like consider it as an abomination. Whatever's in the water does not have fins and scales is number four, an abomination to you. Does God ever say that shrimp is unclean to you?
To me?
Yes or no?
Well, yeah.
No.
To me.
No.
That's what you just said.
No, I didn't. I said 4 times something else.
Oh,
Does he ever say the shrimp is unclean to you?
No, it says it's an abomination.
It's an abomination to you. This is different. This is different.
Right.
One thing God says about it, I want that to be unclean to you. I want you to look at that as unclean. Another thing he says, I want you to look at that as disgusting.
Right. Not
Slightly different.
worse.
Now, the next thing, birds. We're going to talk about birds. These you shall hold as an abomination among the birds. They are an abomination. They are an abomination.
Right.
Look at that.
Those he does say they are.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Hit the wrong button. Where is it? Oh.
Where are you at?
Birds. There we go.
They are an abomination. Not to you.
Period. Period.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
That's cool. Is that the NAB version?
This is kind of a mixture of New American Standard and Rashi's translation in the Tanakh.
The Jewish one, it just says detestable.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go over the Hebrew so you can see what this means. You shall hold as an abomination among the birds. They are an abomination, not to be eaten. The eagle, the vulture, the buzzard, the kite, the falcon in its kind, every raven in its kind, the ostrich and the owl and the seagull and the hawk in its kind, and the little owl and the cormorant and the great owl and the white owl and the pelican and the carrion vulture and the stork, the heron in its kinds, and the hoopoe and the bat. Now I've taken all the extraneous words out and just stuck the animals, run right after the other like a shopping list. just to make it shorter. But what do we not see about the birds? What do we not see about the birds?
They're not unclean.
No, wrong. Just the opposite. He doesn't say to you,
Oh, well, yeah, that's true also.
right? He doesn't say to you about the birds. So these birds that are listed, now follow what I'm saying. These birds that are listed are not unclean to us. They are unclean, abomination.
Detestable.
They are detestable. They are an abomination in and of themselves. So here's what I'm saying. I don't think he's talking about birds. I think that there's a clue in the passage that tells us he's not talking about birds. He's talking about something, but it ain't birds. And we'll talk about that. The next one, insects. All the winged insects that walk on all four are an abomination to you. Yet these you may eat among all the winged insects, those which have above their feet jointed legs with which to jump on the earth. The locust, the katydid, the cricket, the grasshopper, and all of these say in its kinds. This is very important. But all other winged insects which are four-footed are what? What? Abomination to you. So now he goes back to, I'm inviting you, I'm inviting you, I'm inviting you, I'm inviting you. Look, if you want to eat shrimp and lobster and rat and mole and lizard and
Alligator.
pig and alligator, doesn't matter.
Snakes.
But I guarantee you this, you're not responding to the invitation that God's giving. And it's that simple. And it's up to you. It's that simple. I'm inviting this. If you do it, you do it. If you don't, you don't. That's all there is to it. Yes, sir.
I got a question. How do you follow through it without making it a command or obeying it?
Hopefully, the question is how do you follow through with this without making it a command, a law, right?
Right.
That's what hopefully we'll get to at the end. By the time we work through this, hopefully your mind will begin to figure this out. Okay, that's what we're working toward. All right, beasts. Concerning all the beasts which divide the hoof but do not make a split hoof, or which do not chew cud, they are what?
Unclean to you.
They are what?
Unclean to you.
They are what?
Unclean to
Unclean
you.
to you. Whoever touches them becomes unclean also. Now let's talk about ritually unclean, which means you can't go to the festivals. That's when it says you become unclean. It's not talking about God's mad at you or something spiritual. It literally means you can't go up to the temple for the festival. That's what it means.
Until he's like he's mad.
Until you go to the mikveh. That's all it means. Also, whatever walks on its paws among all the creatures that walk on four are unclean to you. It's an invitation. Whoever touches their carcass becomes unclean. They are unclean to you. How many times has he said that beasts that don't divide the hoof and chew cud are unclean to you? How many times did he say that in this little portion?
3 times.
How many?
3.
3. Unclean to you, unclean to you, unclean to you. Now, creeping things. This is everything else. Reptiles, amphibians, stuff like that.
Except grasshopper.
And grasshoppers are not an amphibian or a reptile.
It's an insect.
It's an insect.
They're already-
Now, these are to you the unclean. In Hebrew, it's virtually the same as unclean to you. It's just switched, but it's the same words. These are unclean to you among the swarming things that swarm on the earth. The weasel and the mouse and the toad and the hedgehog and the lizard and the snail and the mole and the chameleon. These are to you the unclean among all the swarming things. So again, he invites. There's only one category that he did not give an invitation for the animals to be unclean to us. What is it?
Birds.
Birds. We're not studying the birds, but we're going to talk about this, that this is strange.
Yeah.
That he never gives an invitation for us to be grossed out by stork tartar. He never says it. We're going to talk about that. All right. So the question is, why did God give the kosher laws? Before we go to the next thing, just think. I want you to start thinking. Why then did God give the kosher laws? To make us holy? Yes, sir.
It's a picture.
Why did God give the kosher laws? I mean, yeah, it's a picture, but I mean, you got to really think about this, because this has to do with every day, 3 times a day minimum for you, minimum for me. We eat every day. We eat all kinds of stuff every day, even snacking. So this really does affect us. Why did he say this? Well, my dad said, I would always say, Dad, why did God make the kosher laws then? Why did he do it? Because they didn't have refrigerators. That was his answer. He was serious. They had no refrigeration.
Right.
So all these things that are listed, apparently refrigeration wouldn't help them.
No.
But not deer meat. That doesn't go bad, I guess. So we got to really think about this. Why did God give the, quote, kosher laws, which are not laws? They're pictures. Okay. There's several things we need to work through. And this is hopefully going to help you, Willie. If we work through this, hopefully you'll figure this out. Job chapter 12. Job chapter 12. Oh, can you do me a favor? Can you get my old man glasses from that box? Please, Doug. Tanks, buddy.
Yes, I can.
Chapter 12, verse 7. Now, if you just take this in context, just thank you. It's not that big a deal, but if you take it as God's word and God's trying to communicate, it is a very big deal. Ask now the beasts, and they will teach you. The word is Torah. They will Torah you. What does Torah mean? Instruct. Instruct. Ask the beasts, and they will instruct you. And the birds of the heavens, and let them tell you. It's Haggadah. Like we read a Haggadah at Paso, it's the same word. Hagid, to tell, to recite. That's what the birds do. In other words, to recite a story. And speak to the earth. And let it Torah you. Let it instruct you. And let the fish write and enumerate. It's the word sofer, from where we get the word sefer Torah, writing, scroll. It's the word scroll or writing. It means actually to scrape or inscribe. So this is like written. In other words, this is shopping lists. Let it make lists for you and make things really understandable and divide it all up and make it very, very understandable. That's a sofer, a scribe. And it's saying that the fish will be a scribe for you. So, what are the 4 things that'll teach us? Beasts, behemoth, birds, the earth, means the ground, and I take that to mean, the things that live on the ground and the insects that live in the ground, and then the fish. These things will teach us. They'll instruct us about things. So the question is, what will they instruct us? Colossians 2. Now, if I lose anybody, here's where I'm going to lose you. If I lose anybody, here's where I'm going to lose you, because this is our main heartbeat passage from which everything that we do and understand comes. Colossians 2, 16 and 17. Gesund. Therefore, and he's talking to Gentiles. Therefore, Gentiles, let no one act as your judge in regard to food or drink. We're just going to skip the next ones. Verse 17. Things which are a shadow. If it says mirror in your Bible is wrong, because that does not appear in Greek. It says things which are a shadow of what is to come. But the body, it says in Greek, the body is Messiah. So, Messiah is the body. Jewish stuff is the shadow. Food and drink, the new moon, the Sabbath, and the festivals.
Amen.
But we want to talk about food and drink. What's food? What's food?
Stuff that I eat.
Huh?
Stuff that I eat.
Maybe. Stuff that.
What sustains the flesh?
Substance?
No, like, what is food? Like, really, what is food?
That
Don't-
which
don't
sustains
spiritualize
me.
it. Things that we eat.
Same thing.
So, if you go to Indonesia and you have monkey brain, that's food, right?
Not me.
Go to Philippines, have lumps.
Right? That's food, right?
No, it's duck
But
eggs.
you can't have it both ways. You're saying it's what you eat. So if you go to Indonesia and you have monkey brain, chilled monkey brain, which they do, with coconut milk, is that food?
To them.
Okay.
Yes. Yes,
All right.
it is.
Now it says that food, whatever that is, and drink, whatever that is a shadow cast by the body that casts the shadow, which is Messiah. So therefore, if you look at food, what should you see?
Body.
Messiah. You should see Yeshua. Are you going to see Yeshua in chilled monkey brains with coconut milk? That's the question.
No.
Don't make a judgment yet.
Yes.
Just ask the question. Just ask the question. That's what it says. Whatever food
Exactly.
is part of the shadow cast by Yeshua. So if you look at that food, you should see what's casting the shadow, which is the Messiah.
Amen.
Okay. So let's find out what food is. Right? Doesn't that make sense? We should do that, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to our passage, Leviticus 11. And we are told 3 times precisely and exactly what God says food is.
That which may be eaten.
Verse 34, 11:34. I'm going to read it the way it says it in Hebrew. Any food, that which may be eaten. So what's food?
That which you can eat.
That which may be eaten. That which may be eaten is food. So you got to figure out what may be eaten. That's why God spent all that time making shopping lists of alligators and grasshoppers and bears and snakes and stuff, so that you can know what is food. Any food, that is, that which may be eaten. All right, and then in verse 39, also, if one of the animals dies, which you have for food, is a pig kosher?
No.
No.
You went to the law. Just like that, you went to the law. Is a pig kosher?
Yes.
Unclean
You went to the law.
He's unclean to
Some
you.
may.
He's unclean to you.
There's no such thing as is a pig kosher.
No.
There's no such thing. I didn't even tell you what kosher means.
Exactly.
Kosher is a Hebrew word meaning fit. And it's not even in the passage. Not one single time. So let me ask you this way. Is a pig unclean?
Yes.
Wrong. It never says that.
Unclean to you.
You see how quick you go back. You got to work through this stuff. It takes practice. And you got to practice and practice and practice and practice. Where's the pig? Where my piggy at?
Verse 7, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking up here. Okay, here we go. The pig, for though it divides the hoof, thus making a split hoof, and doesn't chew cud, it is what?
Unclean to you.
Is it unclean?
No.
No, it is. It's
Unclean
unclean to you. If you want it to be. If you accept that. If you consider it unclean, it is unclean to you. And that's what God is saying He would like. Yes.
You can grab a raw pork chop, I told you the other day, and pour some Coca-Cola on it, and in 1 hour you'll have hundreds of worms.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. That has nothing to do with what we're
Well,
talking
I've seen a
about.
lot of people little.
Stop. You're talking about health. And this has zero.
From eating pork.
No, this has zero to do with that. I'm trying to change your mind so that you can stop thinking law and start thinking pictures.
Like
That's
that
all.
picture, the
No,
ones
no, no,
with
no,
the
no. That's
brains.
all. No, you can't go there.
I
That's
searched 37 years.
you can't do that. You need to change your mind first before you go there, because you're going to health, and that doesn't even appear in the passage one single time. Keep that in mind, because we're going to get to another piece that will help you with that. I guarantee it.
It doesn't say it's unhealthy to you.
That's right.
Correct.
It doesn't say it's unhealthy to you. It doesn't say it breeds worms. It doesn't say I want you to stay healthy, unlike the Gentiles. What else have I heard from believers, from Messianic Jews? It doesn't say that it'll set you apart as holy. It doesn't say any of that. It says it is, what is the pig? Unclean to you. Period.
Unclean.
To you. So, if you consider it unclean, that means that you are saying, okay, I accept that invitation. You notice how I didn't say I'm being obedient.
Listen.
I said, yes, I accept that invitation. Okay. Verse 47. Wait, let's do 39 again, because you got trapped. Also, if one of the animals dies which you have for food, is shrimp unclean?
No.
Is shrimp unclean? You gotta answer.
No.
No. What is it?
Respectful.
Right. Abomination or detestable
To you.
to you.
Cockroaches.
Does it say that? Does it say to you?
No. No, it just says,
Wrong. It says 4 times. Abomination to you, abomination to you, abomination, abomination to you. It says it 4 times. So, is shrimp unclean?
No.
no.
Come on, answer. Play my game. No, it is what? An abomination or detestable to you. It's an invitation. Simply an invitation.
Shekels.
Now, is shrimp food?
Yes.
No. No, because if you accept the invitation and say, that's disgusting to me, it is no longer food. It's no longer food.
I like that. I
See,
like
it's simple.
that.
Yeah, got it now?
I like
Good.
that. Okay.
Simple, simple, simple.
It's not food.
Food is what God says
It's food.
is on the shopping list that He invites you to consider as clean. Whatever ain't on the list that's unclean to you.
Can I throw a word picture in?
Not right now. We got a long way to go. I'm sorry. We just got too much to do. All right, Leviticus 11, verse 47. To make a distinction between the unclean and the clean. This is talking about people, not animals. To make a distinction between the unclean and the clean people, and between the creature which you eat and the creature which is not to be eaten. Is shrimp, okay, I'm tricky again. Is shrimp kosher?
No.
Not to me. No.
Yes.
I don't know. It doesn't say a word about kosher here.
No.
Does it say anything about kosher?
No.
Okay, let me ask you this.
No, but it's not fit to me.
You don't know that from the passage. All we know is what the passage says right now. You got to limit yourself to what we're talking about. Is shrimp, no, is mollusk, what do people like? Oysters. Is oysters food?
No.
No.
Who says?
Yes, it is.
God did.
Whoever eats them.
That's right. Yes, it is, to whoever eats it. Is it food to Israel?
No.
There's the
It's
distinction.
not supposed to be.
There's a distinction. It's not food to Israel because God says this you may eat, or you, actually what it says in Hebrew is you eat. And this lo ochelet, this you don't eat. This you no eat. This you eat, this you no eat. That's what it says in Hebrew. So, hold on. And this is the group of people to which he's inviting this to be their life. So, it's your choice. It's your choice if you want to be part of that group or don't want to be part of that group. That's pictures. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so,
And then I'll get to you, honey.
so, I understand what you're trying to say, but if you look at what these animals eat, the pig and the shrimp,
Yes.
they eat unclean.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't
No,
matter.
it's a picture.
Hold on. It doesn't matter.
Yes, it is.
Chickens eat their own poop, and they're clean to us.
And they cut roads.
Hold on. Goats and sheep eat poop,
No, clean your backyard.
but they're clean to us.
But it's
So
plain
you're
food.
going beyond the bounds of what we're constructing here. Stay within the bounds of the construct of where we're at. If you want to bring that up later because it's come up, fantastic. But let's try to stay within the bounds of what we're discussing. Yes.
All I was gonna say was, like, shrimp, is it food? Okay, it's not food to us, but it's not, it's, according to the scriptures, it's not considered,
Considered by whom?
God.
Exactly.
Okay. Considered by
It's not
God.
considered by God food.
Correct. That's my point.
Therefore, just because a person is eating it, doesn't mean it's food. just
Wrong.
because it-
Wrong. If you are in the pen, we'll talk about a pen, like a sheep pen. If sheep are in that pen, and every day the shepherd throws, just chicken feed or some grass or corn or whatever in there, and the animals eat that, that's their food. Are insects their food?
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
No, because that's not what they're fed by the shepherd. Stay within the construct of where we're at. In that pen, are insects their food?
No.
Answer me.
No.
Okay. That's how this works. God is creating a boundary in which there's a group of human beings, and then He tells them, this is your food, this is low, okay, this you don't eat, this no eat. This eat, this no eat. And it's that simple.
Then
If you take it farther than that, you're going to make a mistake. I guarantee it. You're going to get confused. It's an invitation. All right, let's go to Mark chapter 7. Hopefully I can help you through this, I hope. This is complicated. Because spiritual leaders aren't supposed to talk about poop. But we have to. They're not supposed to talk about bathroom. But we have to.
Says who?
yes.
That's the way it is. Just the way it is.
Sorry, what was the scripture?
Says who?
Mark chapter 7. And we have to talk about it because that's what Yeshua said. It's what Yeshua said. Everybody reads this passage and then immediately leaves what Yeshua says about it and starts inventing all kinds of stuff. Mark 7:14. Oh yes, I know this passage very well. You think you do? After He called the multitude to Him, he began saying to them, Shema, listen to me, all of you, and understand, there's nothing outside the man which going into him can defile him. Really? You can't become unclean by eating oysters?
Nope.
Can you?
No.
Can you become unclean by eating a dead rat?
Yes.
What He says, there's nothing outside of you that you bring in that can make you unclean.
Go to the exit.
It's an invitation.
Doesn't He?
That's what he said.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you're lost already.
You're not too unclean.
Hold on, let's back up. You're lost already.
Plain Greek.
Let's back up.
Explain.
Yeshua became flesh. Sorry, I messed that up.
Yeah.
The Torah, the Tanakh, the whole entire Bible, Old Testament, became a human being. So everything out of Yeshua's mouth has to be where? In the Tanakh. So these words are not the words of the Christ that floats around on, in sandals. These are the words of the Torah. Where does the Torah say there's nothing outside a man going into him that can make him unclean? In Leviticus 11. We just read it. Those are let's say the pig. Is the pig unclean?
No, me.
What is it? Unclean to you. It cannot make you unclean. It's an animal. It can't make you unclean. It's an animal.
Now I'm real confused.
But it's because we're in the New Testament. But the things which proceed out of the man are what make him unclean,
Thank you.
defile him. So in other words,
You're right.
please pay attention.
Amen.
So what he's saying is this. All of the discussion of animals and food and pigs and shrimp and oysters and ostriches, that is spiritual. It's not physical. It's spiritual. It's a picture. It's a shadow to teach you stuff. Go to the beasts. Go to the earth. Go to the fish. Go to the birds. And they will teach you.
Amen.
It's not about food. It's not about fat. It's not about health. It's about learning spiritual stuff. So, when was the last time you learned something from what you ate? Or didn't eat? When was the last time you led somebody to the Lord talking about shrimp or oyster or sheep or goats or bulls or snakes? That's what it's there for, to learn spiritual stuff. Period. It goes no farther than that. It's only pictures, shadows cast by Yeshua.
Rumination.
Let's not go there.
Okay.
And then he says, if anybody has ears to hear, to Shema, you better pay attention and hear. So he leaves the multitude, and they're like, what were you talking about? And in verse 18, he says, you guys are so dumb still? You don't get it still? You still lack understanding? Dude, don't you understand that whatever goes into the man from outside cannot make him unclean? Because it doesn't go into his heart, it goes into his stomach and he poops it out.
Oh, yeah.
That's what makes it clean. It's
That's
about-
why they eat their own poop.
We got to start from the beginning. No.
Yes.
No, you're wrong. You got lost.
The animals eat their own poop.
No, you got lost.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Not talking about that.
You need to stay in that pen of what we're discussing. Don't leave it. You're going to get lost.
Only the pig pen.
No.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
I know. Okay. Everybody loves to quote what Yeshua says next, but they just ignore what he just said. Verse 19, because it doesn't go into his heart, it goes into his stomach, and then he poops it back out. And that is what it says in Greek. It goeth into the draft. That means he poops it out. That's what it says in Greek. Thus, by saying that, declared all foods what? What's food?
Food.
That which we may eat.
That which you may eat.
That which God said is food. Is pig food.
No.
No.
So you can't have clean pig.
Correct.
You can't have clean pig.
No,
Yes.
Because it ain't food. It may taste great, but it ain't food.
Thank you.
it is something that you do.
Say that again.
Don't. Yes, I thought you were going to do it. Don't leave. It may taste great, but it ain't food. Is shrimp food?
No,
Is goat food?
no.
Yes.
Yes. Is crocodile food?
Yes.
No.
You ever tasted crocodile?
Yes.
It tastes great, doesn't it?
It does.
It ain't food. May taste great, but it ain't food. Because God already told us what food is. You eat this, you no eat that. Read it again. Verse 19. Well, read verse 18. You still don't get it? Whatever goes into the man from outside cannot make him unclean because it doesn't even go into his heart. It goes into his stomach and he poops it out. That's what makes food clean. What makes food clean?
What makes food clean?
You poop it out.
Thank you, Daniel. What makes,
Your body processes it.
thank you for cleaning that up, Doug. Doug said,
People have bacon in the heart.
Can we
your
go
body
back to
processes
number
it.
50?
Turn it up, please. Your body processes it. That's right. But that's not what Yeshua said. He said you poop it out. That's what makes it clean.
Rabbi, can you explain to me 50? If you don't mind, you got
What?
that?
What?
50. Go back to number 50.
Verse 15?
Please. Yes.
Again?
Yes, sir.
There's nothing outside the man that can make him unclean. But the things that come out of the man are what make him unclean. In other words, this has nothing to do with physical. The discussion of food has nothing to do with anything physical. It's about what? Spiritual. Period. It's pictures. Period. Oh, hold on just a second. Let me nail this down. So the second you leave the talk of spiritual things, if you're discussing animals, what can be eaten, what can't be eaten, or what should be eaten, what should not be eaten, the second you leave that, you're wrong. You're gone. You're outside of what God said. And you've left the understanding of what He's trying to give us understanding of. That's why Yeshua said, you still don't get it, you have no understanding. Because they left the understanding. Yes.
Isaiah 59:3. For your hands are defiled with blood and your fingers with
Oh,
iniquity.
goodness. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Your lips have spoken lies and your tongue.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Let's try to stay focused on what we're talking about.
You say that.
Well, we're about to get there, so let's. It's really hard to stay on one track. I can do, on a good day, I can do one thing at a time. So I got to try to stay focused because I think that's about to come up. I think. You let me know if I answer that for you, okay? Because I think it's about to come up. Okay. So, are you with me so far? You get what I'm saying so far?
Yes.
Any discussion of animals and, quote, food is about what? Spiritual stuff, period. Pictures.
Question, quick.
Yeah.
In my Bible, at the end of verse 19, where it has, thus he declared all foods clean, that's in parentheses.
Yeah, there's no
Is that in the original
parentheses.
text?
There's no parentheses.
Okay.
No parentheses.
So that is in the original text?
Yeah, it's in the original
Okay.
text.
Okay.
And thus he is not. It just says, but it goes into his stomach and he poops it out. Declared
Okay.
all food clean.
Okay, got it.
What makes food clean? What makes food clean? Did you poop it out? It just touches you physically. Food. Food. That which may be eaten. Verse 20. That which comes out of the man, that's what makes the man dirty. Where does it come from?
The heart.
The heart. For from within, out of the heart, comes evil thoughts and fornications and thefts and murders and adulteries, coveting and wickedness, deceit, lies, sensuality, and envy and slander and pride and stupidity. All these evil things come from within. That's what makes you dirty. It ain't what goes in, it's what comes out.
Amen.
And it never touches your heart. You poop it out. So it has nothing to do with your heart. Because you poop that food out. That's what makes it clean. Because it never touches your heart. It's a spiritual picture to learn spiritual things. Period. Has nothing to do with health. Did that touch what you were talking about? Abe? I'm sorry? I don't know what you said. Did that touch what you were talking about?
Leviticus, and I was saying about the things that God instructed for a purpose.
What purpose?
To set his people aside.
Wrong. To teach us spiritual things.
Listen.
It's a shadow. Be nice. It's a shadow cast by Yeshua. So if you look at the body casting the shadow, and you look at the shadow, you see Yeshua. Period. It wasn't to set his people apart. It wasn't to make them holy. It wasn't to do anything, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. What is holiness? We'll talk about that, I hope. It was to be spiritual pictures of spiritual things. So we can learn spiritual things, period. No, to give us spiritual pictures of spiritual things so we can learn spiritual things. 15 times. Okay, 1 Timothy chapter 4. We got to move on. 1 Timothy chapter 4. The Spirit explicitly says, where? If the New Testament says that the Spirit says something real
Tanakh.
explicitly,
Tanakh.
it's got to be in the Tanakh. It has to be. So, in the Tanakh somewhere, it says, in the latter times, some will fall away from the emunah, from the understanding, from the faith, paying attention to deceitful spirits and doctrines of demons. By means of the hypocrisy of liars seared in their own conscience like with a branding iron, men who say this, they forbid marriage and abstaining from what? No, not meats.
Torah.
Nope, not
It says
Torah.
because they distanced themselves from Torah.
No, they say to forbid. They say forbid marriage and abstain from what?
Their own desires.
Food.
Food.
Food. The demons say, stay away from what?
Spiritual things.
Food. What's food?
What God said.
That which God said was food. Eat, don't eat. That which God said to eat. But the demons come and they say, stay away from that, quote, kosher stuff. Stay away from the kosher stuff.
Because they're liars.
Because it is a shadow cast by Yeshua. Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, the big
Come
shit.
on. Whoops. Hit the wrong button. This. It's a shadow cast by Yeshua. Period. And the demons come along and say, don't do that. Christ set us free from the law. Eat oysters. Eat shrimp. Eat pork. Eat rat. Eat crocodile. It ain't food. The demons forbid marriage. The demons forbid the eating of what? Food. Of what?
Food.
And God tells us what food is. The rationale of doing it is where you get lost. The rationale of doing it is simple. It's this. It's a shadow cast by Yeshua. You want to learn about God? You want to learn about Yeshua? Don't eat an alligator. And you might learn.
Don't need a pig.
Don't eat a pig. And you might learn. You might, if you listen to it, because God says the beast will talk to you. Doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to listen. You got to listen for, to hear what these creatures have to say. Whoop. Let's keep reading in 1 Timothy 4. I'm sorry, what?
What has the pig spoken to you?
Many, many, many things. It's not time. I'm trying to get the rationale across of how this works.
Dog.
Okay, verse 3. So these demons, deceitful spirits, doctrines of demons, say don't get married and don't eat food, which God has created. Now you're going to get lost again, I think. I hope not. God is created to be gratefully shared in by those who believe and know the truth. See, believers can eat anything they want. That's what's been taught for centuries. This verse says that believers can eat anything they want. All you got to do is go, oh Lord, thank you for this food, and bless it to the nourishment of our body. Amen. In the name of Christ. It's done. You put the little magic formula on it, you can do whatever you want. Now, that's what people have done, and you know this, they've been doing this for centuries. It doesn't say that. It says, we already know what food is, and the demons say, don't eat food which God has created to be gratefully shared in. What are the believers supposed to gratefully share in what?
The food God gave us.
What are the believers supposed to gratefully share in? Food. Food. By those who believe and know the truth. Because everything created by God is good. And nothing, you see, you can eat whatever you want. And nothing is to be rejected, not even the chilled monkey brains and coconut milk, if it is received with gratitude. That's all you have to do is be thankful. That's all. Amen? Sister? I mean, it's so easy to go there in your mind, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you don't know what food is.
I got a question.
Hold on.
You guys ask the questions back here.
I know. For everything created by God is good, and nothing is to be rejected if it is received with gratitude. What is the pen in which he is talking about?
Food.
Food.
That he calls.
We already know what food is. He's already defined food for us. That's what he's referring to, and nothing else, because he said food. So let's not add to it. What's your question?
We got a problem in our society that you go to a house and they invite you to dinner and they have pork chops.
Eat the salad.
Why? That's what you have to eat.
Okay, listen. You're going to have to work all these questions out. I'm not here to teach about that right now. I'm here to teach about to change your mind so you can think pictures, period. That's all we're doing. All that other stuff that we got to work through in the world, that's going to take years.
Just gotta listen.
And we got to bang at it and work it out, and we will.
And it's hard to say.
Okay. Verse 5. For it is sanctified. What is sanctified?
Set apart.
What is sanctified? Food. Food is set apart. The word sanctified is kadosh, holy, set apart. Food is set apart by means of the Word of God. Where is the Word of God setting apart food?
Leviticus 11.
Thank you. Leviticus 11.
Thank you.
That's all he's saying. He's saying you've already set it apart in Leviticus 11 for you. You know what food is. And prayer. What's the prayer?
Thanksgiving.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. You say this for no matter what you eat. Who brings forth the bread from the earth. That's sanctified. What does sanctified mean?
Set apart.
Set apart. Now this is what they translate as holy. And this is the whole problem with religion. If you don't have pictures firmly set in your mind, and by the way, if you don't, cool. It takes years to get it. I've been doing pictures, thinking pictures, obsessed with pictures for 33 years, and still sometimes it's so easy to slip back and stop thinking pictures. It's easy. So no judgment, okay? If you're still thinking law instead of pictures, you want to be holy. You do. You want to be holy. Don't you? Okay, normal, natural. Of course you do. The problem is, what the hell does that mean?
Set apart.
Okay, yes.
Is what it means to me.
It means set apart.
Set apart.
What does it mean?
Set apart to God.
It's like being on a merry-go-round. You shall be holy. Okay, how? You shall be holy. Okay, great. How? You shall be holy. Great. How? And it just goes on and on and on. And everybody's got their own idea of how to be holy. Well, it's simple. Do a Jewish thing.
Thank you.
That's what holiness is. He says, I'm setting apart this as food. Eat food. This, no eat. You do that, you know holy. You do that, it's kadosh. It's set apart. And it works like that with every single Jewish thing on the planet. every single thing of Judaism on the planet.
That's right.
Every paradosis, every tradition of Judaism on the planet
It's kadosh.
is kadosh. You do it, you're kadosh. For that moment that you're doing it, you're kadosh. And then you go back to being Mike. You go back to being you. But every time you are kadosh,
Yeah.
and you're doing that Jewish thing, and it preaches to you, hopefully, that shadow shows you something spiritual, and it preaches to you, you get a little higher, a little higher, a little higher, a little higher, a little higher. Yeah, and that's all there is to it. That's the whole thing. Yes, ma'am. But? You're going to start us out with but? Therefore.
It is holy, it is kadosh, because you see it as a picture.
That is correct.
Not because
It's holy because you see it as a
doing
picture.
as in obedience.
Well, that was my whole point. If you're doing it for that moment because you're doing a Jewish thing and it preaches to you, you are holy. If you just do some Jewish thing, that ain't going to change you one single bit. Not one single bit. You don't have to believe me, but I've been doing this a long time, and dude, I've been living it since I was born. I know what I'm talking about. I know all the problems with it. I know all the good parts of it. And I know how quick it is to slip into the law. So, you're going to have to work these things out for yourself. However, I think we've made some progress toward thinking clearly. I think. I can feel a little bit of things happening. So, I'm going to skip ahead. We're going to break this up into 2 teachings. Yes. I can't hear you.
Can we give examples? What the Lord has shown us.
No, not right now. Look what's next. Whoa, sorry. Look what's next. Examples of how this works. How to see it as pictures. Now we're not going to go through these. We're just gonna touch on one of them, just one. Which kind of creature did God not say it's unclean to you? It's abomination to you. Birds. He never says that about birds. He says it about the other creatures on the planet, but not about birds. So, what's bizarre about this is I don't think he's talking about birds. I think he's talking about flying things that are disgusting, and they're pictured by the kite and the raven and the ostrich and the ossifrash and the vulture and the eagle, the hawk, the hoopoe, the bat. Whatever he's talking about ain't those. He's talking about something spiritual. How do we know it's something spiritual?
This is the picture.
Because it's everything in food, let me say it this way. Everything in the quote kosher laws is about spiritual things. So I'm saying, I don't think he's talking about the animals themselves. I think he's talking about something else. All right, let's talk about the fish. Just one thing. Genesis chapter 9. Next week, we're going to break this up into 2 teachings. I'm not going to be here next week.
Then I guess it won't be next week. So where do we have to go to have you teach us next week then?
I don't know. Genesis 9, we'll talk about it. Genesis chapter 9, verse 9. I myself establish my covenant with you and with your seed after you, and with every living creature. Now this is, Noah comes off the ark, and they're all there, and he's offered sacrifices of the animals that God says are clean animals. That's what he says.
Right.
He says, take 7 of the clean animals, and that's what he says, and 2 of the unclean animals. So before the Torah was given, God called them clean animals and unclean animals.
Correct.
But when the Torah was given to teach us about spiritual things, he changes it. And he says, unclean to you. Abomination to you. So it says, with every living creature, verse 10, that is with you, the birds, the cattle, the beasts of the earth with you, and everything that comes out of the ark, even every beast of the earth, I establish my covenant with you. Gesund. I establish my covenant with you, and all flesh shall never again be cut off by the water of the flood, neither shall there again be a flood to destroy the earth. So God makes a covenant with everything on the planet, right? No.
No, with Noah.
No, he said every animal, every creature on the ark.
Yeah.
But did he make a covenant with every single thing? Every flesh, every animal?
Just what was on the ark.
Everything except what? Wrong.
Well,
Because he
the
said,
covenant is with Abraham.
bring the birds on the ark. They went off the ark. He made a covenant with them. What thing did he not make a covenant with?
Cow.
Hey, when he brought the flood, what didn't die?
Fish.
Fish.
Anything in the sea.
Anything in the sea didn't die. It just kept going, kept producing. So when he made the covenant, he made it with everything on the planet except fish.
Everything out of the water.
Aquariums
Yeah, in the water. Right, you're right. Verse 11, and I establish my covenant with you, and all flesh shall never again be cut off by the water of the flood, and there will never be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, this is the sign. He shows the rainbow, and he says, for all generations, you're going to see this bow in the cloud, and know it's a sign that I'll never destroy the earth again. And when I bring the cloud over the earth, you're going to see the cloud and the rainbow in the cloud, and I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and never again will the water become a flood and destroy all flesh. But it didn't destroy the fish. So there's no covenant with that which is in the sea.
Right.
Why? And God said to Noah, verse 17, this is the sign of the covenant that I've established between me and all flesh that is on the earth, the aretz, the land. So the covenant was with everything that was in the land, on the land, not in the sea. So the question is why?
You can't drown them.
Yeah, but why? Why did God do that? Why didn't God say, and the fish too, by the way? They don't deserve a covenant? How come a snake deserves a covenant with God? How come a scorpion and a gnat?
They didn't need the covenant because they weren't destroyed in the flood.
Yeah, but that's,
So they were exempt.
what does that say about God's heart?
I guess because the animals in the sea are not a picture of a spirituality.
You're the one who's thinking clearly right now.
Wow.
Because the things in the sea are not a picture of that which God has a covenant with. Who did God make a covenant with?
Things on the earth.
Not in this passage, just in general. Who did God make a covenant with?
Us.
Stuff is ours.
The Jews.
People.
Abraham, Isaac,
And
Jacob,
Israel.
and their children,
Thank you.
the sons of Israel. Period. Period.
Gentile says he broke.
Okay. So that which is on the earth that he made a covenant with are a picture of the ones that God made a covenant with.
Amen.
And the ones who are in the sea are a picture of those who God made no covenant with. Right?
Right.
It says that in the Bible many times. It says that very thing. Go to Isaiah 17.
Now it makes sense.
Good. Isaiah 17. It says it, and these are just a few. It says it many, many times. Isaiah 17, verse. There is no Isaiah 7. It's Isaiah 7, I think. No, it's not Isaiah 7. Isaiah 14.
There is an Isaiah.
No, what am I saying? It's Isaiah 17, verse 12. Alas, the uproar of many peoples. How many nations are there?
70.
How many?
70.
I can't hear you. 70. Who roar like the roaring of the seas. and the rumbling of Gentiles who rush on like the rumbling of mighty waters. The sea is a picture of the Gentiles. This is well established in the Bible many times. The nations, the Gentiles, rumble on like the rumbling of many waters. Go to Isaiah 57.
Oh, Hashem.
Verse 20. But the wicked are like the tossing sea. It cannot be quiet, and its waters toss up poop and mud. Who tosses up poop and mud like the sea? Who? The Gentiles. Very simple picture.
Ouch.
Go to Jeremiah chapter 5. Go to Jeremiah chapter 5. Verse 22. This is a really important one. I have placed the sand as a boundary for the sea. Who's the sand? I will make your children like the sand of the sea. Who's the sand? The Jews. The Jews are a boundary for whom? The Gentiles. Got it?
Picture.
I have placed the Jews as a boundary for the Gentiles, an eternal decree, so the Gentiles cannot cross over it. Even though the waves toss and they get nuts, they can't prevail. Even though they roar, they can't cross over the Jews. They cannot. Because the Jews are there as a boundary for the Gentiles.
That's right.
Revelation chapter 13.
That's why he didn't make a covenant with the fish.
That is correct. That's why he didn't make a covenant with the fish and the other things in the sea.
Get the picture.
Revelation 13. And I stood on the sand of the seashore, and I saw a beast coming up out of not the sand, coming up out of what?
Sea.
The sea. Who are the sea?
Gentiles.
The Gentiles. And by the way, there's a whole lot more verses. These are just 4. There's lots and lots and lots of verses in the Bible that say that the Gentiles are pictured by the sea. That's why there's no covenant with the things in the sea. When God made the covenant, he made the covenant with all the things that are on the earth. On the sand, which is the Jews. And he made no covenant with the things in the sea. And there's all kinds of weird stuff in the sea.
So the Christians got it right when they picture the fish.
Oh, they have the little fish on the car.
But please don't leave what I'm teaching. Please, it's really hard it's hard to comment on stuff when you guys just go off in left field. It's difficult.
Those are veggie
But please stay focused, please. I'm begging you. I mean, we're at the very end, and I'm sweating like a pig up here, like a unclean to you pig. You know, have mercy on me. So the reason he made no covenant with the things in the sea is because the things in the sea are a picture of the Gentiles. And the things on the earth, if they have split hoof and chew cud, are a picture of Jews. It's your job to go find out why. It's your job to go find out why they have to have fins and scales. I'll give you a hint. Just a hint. Why fins and scales? Fins is snapir in Hebrew. And it says in Gesenius it comes from nafar, which means to flee, hasten, to propel. That makes sense, right? To propel. Moves them fast. Coming from para, which means to bear oneself along swiftly. That makes sense. But sharks have fins, and they're fast, but they don't have scales. So what is scales? Scales is kaskishet. And it means from peeling off, like you have a tree and you peel the bark off. Well, which way do you have to peel it off? Circular. You got to go around to peel it off. And so it comes from the word kasa, which means to peel off as bark. In other words, a circular motion. To turn, to frame in a round form. A kashbe, which same root, is a cup, around, right? But look at this. That's kasa, And this happens very, very, very often in Hebrew. Spelled with a shin instead of a sin, it's kasha, and it's the same looking word, but it means something completely different. To be hard or heavy or make hard or difficult, harsh, obstinate, or stubborn.
Typical Jew.
Something. Say that again.
Typical Jew.
Yes. Yes. Remember, the fish have to have fins and scales to be kosher, to be clean, be fit, to be a picture of something holy. And the Jews are that. They gotta have that. It's like a curved thing, a curved thing over thing over thing over thing over thing. Now in Job 41, it's talking about Leviathan, the false Messiah, and it says his scales are in Hebrew maganim. What's a magan? Mogan David, a magan, a shield. God is our magan, our shield. Well, Leviathan's got maganim too. Because he's hard and obstinate and tough and arrogant and difficult and makes things hard and heavy.
You can be.
And it says in Job chapter 41, it says this, that these maganim are echad be'echad v'ruach lo yavo. They're one by one by one. So no spirit can come.
Woo!
Isn't that weird?
Perfect.
And yet, it's the right picture to have both. Fins that get you going, and scales that are protection, a magen. So it can be good or it can be bad. So, Leviathan has scales. The false messiah is called shaketz, samim. The, what's called the abomination of desolation? Abomination of desolation, you've heard that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the abomination is the word shaketz. That God says 4 times that the things without fins and scales are abomination to you. It says it 4 times. The false messiah, the Leviathan, is called the Shaketz Samim, the abomination of desolation. So you gotta have both. The Jews have gotta have both. Protection and speed. Why do we have to have speed? Think of rivers. Think of fish in the rivers, not in seas, in the rivers. To propel you how? Upstream. Right. The Jordan, you know what that means? Jordan?
Going down.
Descender. It means descender, right? Go down. Well, it goes from the Sea of Galilee, and you go in that descender. Where does it end up?
Dead Sea.
The Dead Sea, where nothing can live. That's hell. It's the way of the Gentile. The Gentiles go from up here, from Mount Lebanon, all the way down here to the death. But a Jew, you got to go against the stream.
That's right.
And you got to have something that pushes you that way. So you got to have something inside you that propels you to move against the flow of when they bring you to their house and they say, here's my lovely chilled monkey brains with coconut milk. What do? Get all nasty with them and start a fight?
No.
But you got to have something inside you that propels you to go, ooh, I want to know what that's a picture of. And that will probably give you the right answer every time. But you got to go to pictures, or else you're going to immediately go to a condemning, arrogant, law-based answer. I guarantee I've seen this for 38 years of my life, that every time people start a discussion about food, it always goes to, yes, well, we don't eat that because we would like to be holy, we want to be obedient before Hashem and feel His presence. You liar. That is a bunch of nonsense. What did it teach you about Him? So, it's hard to do this and do it consistently, but you got to practice. You got to practice all the time. And you're going to screw it up, I guarantee it. You're gonna screw it up. So don't get all freaked out when you say the wrong thing and you go back to saying, well, you know, I just want to be holy unto Hashem and I want to be obedient to my God. And you're so beautiful and put together. The second you go there, you're done. You're cooked. You're not learning anything
You're
about
a
God.
dead fish.
You're a dead fish. You're not learning anything
Get
about
the
God.
picture.
I guarantee it. You may look good, you may feel good about yourself, but it ain't going to teach you anything about the kingdom. I guarantee you that.
That's right.
Because the kingdom ain't like that.
That's ego.
It is ego. It is.
Flesh.
It's flesh. You know, I
Read-
hate to say
read
it,
to
but
the
it is.
point, please.
All right, that's all I can do.
You come on, you're tough, you're Jew. The Gentiles were grafted in. Can you later give us a lesson on the grafted?
Let me just say a little thing about it.
Okay.
We've talked about the Gentiles being grafted in a billion times, but let's talk about it with this.
Yes.
That pen that God created that's food to you, and this pen over here is unclean to you. It's an invitation. Jews do it because we're taught to do it. But what about you Gentiles? If you accept the invitation, you're going into the pen with the Jews. And you're saying, I'm living like the Jews, right?
Right.
That's being grafted in. And it stops there. There's nothing more to it than that. It's that simple. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it.
You wanna learn.
If you want to go in that pen, and you want to be in that pen, and you want to learn how the shadows teach about spiritual things, do it.
They
If
don't
you
want
don't-
to learn. A guy thrown out of
If you don't want to
Gentile
learn,
churches.
there's a million places you can go where you want to learn.
Yeah.
I've been to hundreds of Gentile churches in El Paso, they know me, and the minute I bring up who we are and explain to them about the grafted.
Hannah, do you realize that this is not getting on tape because the camera's going this way? Do you understand that?
Because the mic is there.
The mic is here, the camera's there. and on you. Yeah.
Let's get a couple of examples of stuff we learned.
All right, come here.
How you can learn from the culture.
Eileen wants to give you a couple examples of what we learned.
Because Pat asked that.
I know.
don't return that.
Please, please.
There's an amazing thing that you can read in the Talmud that when you're eating, there's sparks, okay, that come from food. And basically those sparks are the revelation that you can get from the food, okay? So, or animals in general. Years back, we saw this amazing video about it was called, I think, The Nature of Sex, and it was about all these animals in the kingdom, and it was just amazing.
The monkeys.
And it was just like, you know, the production and whatever. Anyway, they were showing a monkey. And the monkey was just like standing there, and all of a sudden it just starts having sex with this other monkey. And then it stops, and then it's just looking around like, doo-doo-doo, I didn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, you know, he's just looking around. It's like, okay, nobody's looking, and there he goes in. He starts having sex with the other monkey. And then he stops, and then he's just like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And Michael and I are sitting there, and we're like, oh my gosh. It just looked like lust and like adultery. And it's like, what is going on here? And the further we looked at this particular animal that is not kosher to us, that we don't eat, we're seeing a spiritual picture of lust, okay, through that animal. All right, that's one example. There's another example. As we started studying the cow and the sheep and different animals that are kosher to us, that God says, yeah, eat. What we learned from that were the number of stomachs that these particular animals have, okay? When we were studying the cow has like 5 okay, 5 different breakdowns, okay? You can say 4, but it's not 4, okay? It's actually 5 because of the esophagus.
The mouth?
It's actually considered 5, and
Okay.
each one of those is a breakdown of the meal. Well, it was really amazing because as we were looking at the 5 breakdowns in the cow, it was like looking at the 5 gifts that God gives each of us as a pastor, teacher, prophet,
Nice.
evangelist, and the apostle.
Nice.
And it was amazing because for us, we were looking at that and we were going, all the gifts need to be functioning in every congregation.
Amen, that's right.
In
So
order.
if every congregation is allowed to use those 5 gifts, your food, your spiritual food is gonna go down and it's gonna produce growth,
Amen.
okay? But you've got to allow the 5 gifts to move freely.
Amen.
So you can look at the cow and go, oh my gosh, I
Wow.
can see it. I can see the 5 gifts. And every single animal can teach you that. You are getting a spark. You're eating and you're saying, oh my gosh, I can see this. I can see why, God is telling me, yeah, that is clean for you. I want you to eat that. Because he's trying to show us stuff for the now, but he's trying to show us stuff for the kingdom. Okay? So, those are just little things. Huh?
Is that it?
Yes. So those are just little things.
Great.
Big king.
Awesome.
Thank you for sharing.
Careful.
Another?
Yeah.
Oh, sister.
That was a no-no.
Oh, no.
Thanks, Amy. And that is, of course, the tip of the iceberg.
That's it.
Okay, let's pray. I could do this all day long.
Okay.
Please.
But I just can't. We can't.
Oh, come on.
So many limitations on
Yeah,
us.
we're still
But this
broadcasting.
is just starting to work toward that ability to stay focused on pictures. It's really difficult to do. But we'll keep practicing and practicing and practicing. And we'll get it. We'll all get it together. So let's pray. Father, thank you so much, Heavenly Father. Father in heaven, Hashemayim, in the heaven. Thank you, Lord, for taking stuff from heaven and putting it down on earth with the Jewish people. Your body of traditions, which is Judaism. Thank you for that you are known in Judah. You are known in Judah. You show yourself in Judah. And Father, thank you for the pictures of the animals. We just don't know anything. We don't know anything about it. Just such a tiny little bit, but I ask that you begin to peel back the skin and the layers, the muscles and the bone, the sinews and the connections and the joints, so that we can see how this works for us, so we can know you. That's what this is all about, to know you, to know you. We want to know you like you are known in Judah. In the name of Yeshua, give us your Ruach HaKodesh, Abba. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome. Let's,